80% of the world's uncut diamonds flow through one city, one building, one vault, buried 2 floors underground, wrapped in 10 layers of security that the people who built it genuinely believed could never be broken. And over a single weekend in February 2003, a group of Italian thieves walked straight through all of it and vanished with over $100 million. This became known as the largest diamond heist in history and one of the largest robberies ever recorded. And here's the part that still hasn't been resolved. Most of that money has never been found. The diamonds, the gold, the jewelry, gone. And there's one detail buried deep in this story about how the whole thing unraveled that almost nobody talks about. We'll get there. Since the Middle Ages, Antwerp has stood as the capital of the world's diamond trade, with specialists perfecting the art of cutting and polishing precious stones. The Antwerp Diamond District is one of the most heavily secured places in the world, with billions of dollars of diamonds changing hands there every year. The vault at the Antwerp Diamond Center wasn't just a room with a lock on it. It was located 2 floors underground and protected by 10 layers of security, including heat and motion sensors, a seismic alarm, Doppler radar, a magnetic field detector, and a vault lock with 100 million possible combinations. Security experts, insurers, the people who ran the building, they all said the same thing. This vault cannot be robbed. And they were wrong. So let's talk about how a crew of professional thieves from Turin, Italy, pulled off what the press would eventually call the heist of the century, and how a half-eaten sandwich brought the whole thing crashing down. The man at the center of all of this is Leonardo Notarbartolo. A native of Turin, Italy, he was an experienced jewel thief with a long criminal history across Europe. He sometimes traveled to Antwerp to pawn off diamonds stolen back home in Italy, having been a thief since the age of 8. His first victim was the milkman. So Antwerp wasn't new to him. He knew the city, he knew the trade, and at some point he looked at that vault and decided it was worth figuring out. Now here's where the second most impressive part of this whole story begins. And I say second most because the most impressive part comes later, and it's the thing that genuinely changes how you see this entire crew. Notarbartolo's role was not merely tactical, but deeply preparatory. He rented an office in the Diamond Center building itself, under the guise of being a diamond dealer, a cover he maintained for approximately 2 years before the heist. Think about what that actually means. He paid rent. He showed up to work. He shook hands with people in the hallway. He was, as far as anyone around him could tell, just another dealer doing business in the most diamond-dense building on the planet. That extended reconnaissance gave him legitimate access to the building, its rhythms, and critically, the vault area, close enough to study the security systems, identify their weaknesses, and plan countermeasures with unusual precision. And he didn't just watch, he tested. He installed a small camera above the vault door to monitor who was coming and going, at what times, and to record the code to the vault's combination lock. He also visited the vault's corridor in disguise and sprayed hairspray on the thermal motion sensor to temporarily disable it, months before the actual heist. He wasn't guessing that it would work. He already knew it worked. He'd proven it. At some point during those 2 years, Notarbartolo realized the job was too big to do alone. He made a call to Italy, tapping into the criminal network of a group of Italian thieves called La Scuola di Torino, translated as the School of Turin. He and his associates had carried out numerous high-value burglaries before setting their sights on Antwerp. These weren't amateurs, they were specialists. Each one brought something specific to the table: a safe cracker, an alarm expert, a lockman, a driver. Notarbartolo gave them aliases in later interviews: Speedy, the Monster, the King of Keys, and the Genius, a crew with a name, a reputation, and a plan that had been 2 years in the making. Now keep that crew in mind, because there's one member of it whose identity has never been confirmed, and that mystery connects to something much bigger that we'll come back to. Over the weekend of February 15th and 16th, 2003, the thieves made their move. They chose that weekend deliberately. The building would sit completely empty for 2 full days. No staff, no dealers, no foot traffic. Just the vault and its 10 layers of security standing between them and everything inside it. They entered the building, made their way to the vault level, and went to work. The combination they already had, thanks to the hidden camera. The thermal sensor they already knew how to beat, thanks to the hairspray test. Layer by layer, the cameras, the magnetic sensors, the steel gate, the light sensors, they moved through the security like they'd done it 100 times, because in every way that mattered, they had. They'd rehearsed this in their heads for 2 years. The vault held 160 safe deposit boxes where diamond brokers could leave their gems while negotiating deals. The crew forced open 123 of them. The other 37 they left completely untouched, not because of any alarm or close call, but simply because they ran out of bag space. They took what they could carry and walked out. Loose diamonds, gold, silver, jewelry, cash, and securities valued at more than $100 million. Gone, over a single weekend. And when the security guard arrived Monday morning and the vault door swung open, the scale of what had happened took a moment to even register. In the early hours of February 17th, Belgian authorities arrived at the Diamond Center expecting to investigate a minor break-in. What they found instead was the aftermath of what would be called the heist of the century, a state-of-the-art vault, considered virtually impenetrable, completely emptied. Now, here's where the story takes a turn that honestly feels like it belongs in a different movie entirely. The crew had pulled off something that security experts said was impossible. They had over $100 million in untraceable goods. They had a head start. And then, somewhere on a road outside Antwerp, they made one of the most avoidable mistakes in the history of professional crime. Despite the apparent success of the operation, the heist began to unravel when the team made a critical error. In their haste to dispose of evidence, they left a bag of incriminating items, including Notarbartolo's DNA, at a roadside near Antwerp. A farmer found it, reported it to police, and what was inside that bag was enough to start pulling the thread. A shopkeeper from Belgium's Floor-Dambos Woods area found a large pile of trash on his property. The peculiar thing about this garbage was the mix of half-eaten sandwiches and international currencies it contained. Torn-up paperwork from this pile of hastily discarded evidence revealed a connection between the crime and Leonardo Notarbartolo. Here's the detail that makes this so hard to believe. The man spent 2 years undercover inside the most secure diamond building in the world. He installed hidden cameras. He tested sensors with hairspray. He recruited a specialist crew with code names. He bypassed 10 layers of security. And the thing that caught him was a sandwich. His DNA on a half-eaten sandwich tossed in the woods by a panicking crew member on the way out of town. Within a week of the robbery, Notarbartolo returned to Antwerp, to the Diamond Center itself, where he was ultimately arrested. He went back. Whether that was arrogance, routine, or something else entirely, nobody has fully explained. but that's where they got him. Now here's the part of this story that still doesn't have a clean answer, and this is the mega loop I planted at the start. While law enforcement believes that Notarbartolo was the ringleader, he has said that an unnamed diamond dealer recruited him. In the Netflix documentary, he claims that someone by the alias of Alessandro is the real architect behind the crime. During his trial, Notarbartolo claimed the heist had been orchestrated by a diamond dealer and that he had been hired to carry out the theft as part of an insurance fraud scheme. He insisted the actual value of the stolen goods was closer to $20 million, not the $100 million reported. Those claims were never substantiated, and the true extent of the stolen loot remains a matter of speculation. So who's telling the truth? Was Notarbartolo the mastermind or a highly skilled middleman who took the fall for someone with much deeper access to the diamond world? Most of the School of Turin were caught, but one member's identity remains unknown to this day. And the diamonds? Notarbartolo was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and 3 other team members received 5-year sentences. But the diamonds, gold, and other valuables disappeared into the underground market. Over 2 decades later, they have not been recovered. The heist became the subject of a book, Flawless, Inside the Largest Diamond Heist in History, and more recently, a Netflix documentary called Stolen, Heist of the Century, produced by the team behind The Tinder Swindler, in collaboration with Amblin Documentaries. It's worth watching if you want to hear Notarbartolo tell his version in his own words, because even now, he's still talking, still pointing at Alessandro, still insisting the full story hasn't come out. If this is the kind of story you can't stop thinking about, the planning, the psychology, the almost perfect crime that fell apart in the most human way possible,